Welcome to my channel. Today's video has to do with permaculture and the strategies we use with permaculture, and I'm going to take you through a couple of things that I've done and some of the effects that have happened because of what I've done. This is a property that I'm working on, and the property has had water issues uphill of it, so that's uphill of me, and the water was coming down, and I've redirected the water to come down to these areas and come into swales that I've installed. You can see the berm, which is, these are the berms of the swales right there, and then if you look over, there's another berm of another swale. And I did not add any of this leaf litter. This leaf litter came from this oak tree. That oak tree is fairly large. And as the summer crept up, the oak tree deposited at least about an inch of leaf litter on the ground. This is retaining moisture in the soil, though you can't see it. It's acting like a cushion. It's acting as insulation, and it's leaving enough moisture in the ground for these plants to not be being watered. None of these plants are being taken care of by us. We're not watering these plants. These are all things like sunflowers, and we have down here, that's baby sunrose, and this is pelargonium, or what people call geranium, but I believe it's pelargonium. And then we have the odd clover, and of course the grasses. And we have jade plants. These are jade plants. And we have what look like irises and calla lilies. And then there's nasturtium. And this is not something that's being maintained. We needed to get the water to move, and we did. And as the water moved, we left it alone. We had to do our maintenance and construction on the property. And you can see that there's a zigzag pattern for the swales that go this way, and then it goes that way. And that is the lowest point on the property, is the corner of that fence line down there. In the process, again, these plants are not being watered, so it's taking time for them to take over. But this is baby sunrose, and it's starting to creep out and take over the landscape, and it's going to reduce the weed structures. The weeds in the structures. And then we can harvest it or remove it as we wish. It's very easy to plant, to remove and propagate. Down here there is clover that's doing fairly well because of the water that's in the subsoil from a pipe I put in. And then this is a pit. And this pit has all the water coming from the roof of the house into this pit, and in the pit there's a bunch of rock. And that rock is acting as a filter for the water, so sediment's not going through. It's acting as a percolator, so air mixes with the water, and it's keeping it dry by settling the water deeper into the subsoils. The content of clay on this property is fairly high, and you can see that this is the clay cracking. It doesn't have enough sand and silt and humus material in it to keep it from cracking. I've added a lot of sand uphill in the swales to help mitigate that problem, but it has to mix in, and that's going to take time, along with the material from the trees. In here There's more swale berms that go all the way around the property, and they loop back on themselves, and they loop back on themselves again. And it's to slow the water from leaving the property. We're taking all the organic material and we're leaving it as a deposit in the trench of the swale. Anything from wood, branches, to the leaves and the cuttings of weeds that we don't want. This slows water from running off the property. It slows and mitigates flooding and drought. And in here you can see I've done some more digging in this zone because we're putting in some asparagus fern, and we're putting in more baby sunrose. We're scattering seed around, whether it be sunflower or radish. And the seeds will take over slowly but surely, but I put asparagus fern everywhere because asparagus fern will act like a carpet. Some people don't like asparagus fern. I think it's a lovely plant. Up front, we've set irrigation hose, which is perforated pipe soaker hose, and that goes around and loops around the plants, and it travels all the way up the property and then loops around the property and then loops back and forth in my swales. You can see my swales are fairly well identifiable from this vantage point because the greenery is the depression and the brown zones are the high points. Down here we've done some gopher protection. We put some hardware cloth in, and there are still gophers in here, but there's a lot less of them. So we're getting mint and pelargonium and lavender and some succulents to take, even plants that I don't particularly care for. There's a lot of clover I like, and I'm not a real big fan of bougainvillea. I think they're spiky and hard to work with. But we do have sages growing, and this is a plant that I don't want. I'm going to show you a plant that I don't want right now. Although it is a beneficial plant in some areas, this one right here is Scotch broom. And we don't want Scotch broom around because it puts out millions of seeds and is a flammable plant. It's a fire hazard plant. And Scotch broom is good in some areas, but not in a fire-prone area. And I have to rip it up by the whole root, which I did. So there's the root. And I got it before it went to flower or went to seed. And I'll go around the property and make sure there's no Scotch broom around because it's very, very prolific. The problem is it has so many oils in it that's flammable. And it dries out very quickly and becomes a fire hazard. Here we go. We got hummingbirds checking out our salvias. They love salvias. I think that's just really neat. And they like our little lavenders. Hummingbirds are a good sign. We're doing the right thing. We have a lot of bees and moths and stuff coming to our property to look at things and drink nectars. And a lot of the plants here are just for the bees and the birds. So this is a way to do things, not the only way, but it is a way to do things. You can see that there's a bunch of sunflower seeds popping up in my trenches, and the deer will come along and nom those. And here's some beautiful little Africanized plants, and they'll take over, and then baby sunrose is starting to flower. It's going to take off soon and create a weed barrier and a herbaceous layer that is easy for us to manipulate and rip up if we have to. Good stuff. If you have questions about permaculture, or you want to know more about any of the plants that I've shown you, you can leave a comment below, and if you're really interested in this type of material, you can share it with a friend. If you're really interested in this, you can like and subscribe and look at other videos from my channel. And if you're really interested, you can make a video of your own and share it with me. Have a great day.